welcome to the Network Effect, Channelnomics' podcast about our partners, the other companies that service the channel and help make partnerships and ecosystems work. And if you heard me say it once, I've probably already said it a million times. Everybody wants to tap into the power of ecosystems. Everybody wants to tap into the collaborative nature of co-selling and working across different companies. That is easier said than done, because the three elements you need to have ecosystems work well is, first, you need opportunity. The second thing you need is trust. And the third thing is monetization, that you're actually going to get something out of it. Getting through those three steps is really hard, particularly when you or your partners have to expose account information. And one of the things partners tell us consistently that raises their concern is encroachment. Is that if they share their account information with a third party, that they're going to have that third party is going to try to undermine or usurp their accounts, and they're going to lose business. So there's a need for a safe way of doing collaboration, for doing account mapping, to identify white spaces and overlaps so that this co-selling motion can work well. And there's a company out there that does that, and that's PartnerTap. And PartnerTap is a good partner of Channelnomics, and they're enabling vendors and partners across the industry to identify where they can work together safely and effectively. And so we thought it'd be a good idea to bring our partner, Cassandra Gholston, the CEO and founder of PartnerTap, on to talk about it. So with that, Cassandra, welcome to the Network Effect.
Thanks so much for having me, Larry.
So look, let's start with the simple question. Tell us about you. Where did you come from, and what is the origin story of PartnerTap?
So I actually started my career in sales. My first job right out of college was in a telecommunications company. So I start in this telecommunications company. I'm like in my early 20s, and I get into the sales team, and they had a bunch of cubes, and it's called a bullpen, and they're like, make 100 calls a day, and that's how we get business. And I remember in my first week listening to all of the sellers in the room with me, and the most tenured salespeople were not making calls out. Calls were coming in, and those calls were happening by partners. And so I figured out really quickly that working with partners is the way to go hit your number and be consistent at it. And that really drove my career in sales and sales leadership. I always worked with partners. And then when I moved over to ADP, I actually met one of my co-founders, Autumn Grimm, who also was on the same sales team that I was. And this was 13 years prior to founding PartnerTap. So we worked together, and then we moved over into Concur and went into leadership there. And at Concur, they really did have this partner first mindset. It was the first company that I went to where the sales leadership was teaching you about how to work with partners, what to do when you go to happy hours, how to get those partners to introduce you into accounts, and how you should be, letting partners into your accounts. And so it was at that company when I really figured out, hey, this account mapping and sharing spreadsheets with all these partners, this is such a mess. Of course, there's a system that exists that allows me just to map all my partners together and collaborate with them in one space. And so I looked on the Salesforce App Exchange and figured out that nothing existed, and this was all manual. And then I really started studying the market and saw a huge white space. So that was the genesis for PartnerTap. And fast forward years later, we're servicing ADP and Concur, Hewlett Packard Enterprises, Salesforce, big enterprises that have a complex partner motion, and helping them collaborate and co-sell.
So the entrepreneurial spirit bit you because, ironically, you found white space to fill. Uh,
Yes. Yes.
I am curious though, because I think that there's a common misunderstanding or maybe a misnomer about what account mapping is and how it actually facilitates co-selling. So can you just take a moment? I mean, I'd really like to hear your approach to this because in your definition, because I often find myself hearing multiple different definitions for account mapping and co-selling. What is it and why is it a critical part of the ecosystem motion?
So if you think about a sales process as running a marathon, account mapping is really the preparation for the marathon. So it's really taking accounts that you have and aligning those with accounts that your partner shares to you and figuring out what matches. And then of those matches, what is the most important areas that you should focus on with this partner? Where should you be marketing? Where should you be aligning sales teams together to then collaborate, account plan, and identify opportunities and then go sell? So account mapping is really the start.
That sounds easier said than done. I mean, because like I've been asked
Right.
about this, right?
Yes.
Is that okay, so let's figure out, let's share our list and let's figure out who we can go after together. And I always say, well, it sounds like a good idea, but
Mhm.
it doesn't actually play out all that well in practice. It does seem like there's a missing element like of, okay, when you say do account planning, it sounds like there should be a plan that leads into that plan.
So that's always going to come, right? That's give me's, right? So you built a partnership, you have trust there, and you're you're going to get business. But how do we throw gas on the fire? Now we know that the partnership is starting to work. Now, where should we go focus that partnership with the next over the next 12 months? And really, if people aren't using a system, they can only map about 100 to 200 accounts, right? Because you map these accounts and it is arduous, right? I'm looking at a list and I'm looking at my CRM and I'm matching these. So it's hours of time. And then now you've got to go figure out, okay, well, then what are we going to go together on? So now it's a conversation between the partner to figure out what sales play, what co-marketing campaign are we going to now run? So that's why I think that a lot of people will not, have a success right out of the gates. I mean, really, when we're going into companies, we're talking about what are the sales plays or the sales programs that work well with these partners, right? You've got a product wedge, they have a product wedge. How does this align? And now we're sharing accounts and going, all right, here's the subset that we're going to go align sellers on. So we're giving our sellers now the lowest hanging fruit to go plan on. Now, I'm not saying every sales meeting that I have with a partner is going to be successful, but there's going to be more success than us not putting sellers together
Like
from the start.
I can appreciate that. I think that there's a lot of goodness that can come from collaboration. But it's also my experience that when you use words or phrases like low-hanging fruit, uh,
Mhm.
that's also sometimes synonymous with, oh, let's go find that silver bullet, let's go find that unicorn. And I think that there's always this tendency to try to get to quick wins rather than strategic wins. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think I think we want all of it, right? So if we can make and there's a lot that goes into the sellers coming together and actually operating together, right? So if you think about my first story about Cassandra, this rep inside of this telecommunications company, right? There were the top tier of sellers were great at partnering. The middle tier were so-so. And then bottom tier are terrible. They're going to be gone, right? So it's about how can we feed the masses and get to the sellers that actually are working well with partners. So that is low-hanging fruit, because not all of your salespeople are good with working with partners. Not all of your sales leaders are bought into working with partners. So that therein lies the challenge with alliance professionals, channel account managers. That's the battle that they're fighting.
The thing that baffles me is that when you look at selling through partners,
Mhm.
is that there is appreciable value of working with partners. There's cost containment, there's lower margin concessions because partners are incented to sell at higher prices. There is greater market reach, and again, tapping into an ecosystem effect is that you're able to solve by working with multiple partners, you're able to solve better for the customer. And yet, I'm always amazed when people like you and I and other people I speak with, we hear this, this refrain is that sales leaders, leadership teams, finance don't understand or buy into the value that comes with working with partners. And yet we can demonstrably show them that there is true benefit that comes with it. And so I really don't understand why we still have to fight that battle when it's something that we have proven over and over again.
Agree. I mean, I think one of the biggest examples of partner led is Microsoft, and coming into the market with Azure, and they were behind AWS. AWS was first to market, and AWS really had this partners, they need us more than we need them kind of mentality. And this was way back when. Things have changed. Okay. So I'm not talking about today, I'm talking about early days. And now you see a company that was had partnerships so ingrained, Satya coming in and saying, hey, we are going to partner and we are going to be partner led. And we might compete with our partners sometimes, but we'll also be going to market with them. And now you've got this company that is winning in the market, and it was partners. So if you take that example across industries, I really talk to companies about, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you look at the competitors in the space and how they really that culture, that partner culture that they have. And you really know that the ones that are embracing partners in that ecosystem that they've already built, they're going to win.
Talk a little bit about how PartnerTap works. As I said, that one of the three elements of making ecosystems work well is trust. And that's one of the things that you broker in, is providing that layer of trust between two or more parties that are sharing account information. So what's the magic formula that you bring to the table, PartnerTap brings to the table in facilitating that trust?
So we don't create trust. Trust has to be there to actually share, right? So you definitely know how a partner feels about you when you bring forward a data sharing application and they're not willing to share with you yet, right? So trust has to be there, and then people will put more and more data, right? And I know you say we don't want to go after low-hanging fruit, or that doesn't sound real, but if you put some strategy into, okay, what are the products that we sell together? Or what are the markets that we're really good at together? And then we start with a subset of data there. We find the alignment, and we align those teams together. There is low-hanging fruit, Larry, every time. So you start small with plays, improve it with data, and then you start to scale. And, if you're a large company, you're not going to share data with everybody. You're going to share only with your most trusted partners. And then to get those partners to share, it always has to be around what co-marketing are we going to do? What sales plays are we going to do? And so you start with that first, and that guides the data that's going to be brought into the system.
First, I want to say I don't dismiss the notion of going after low-hanging fruit. I
Okay.
think it look, it's obvious
Don't
that
believe it. You don't
no, no,
believe
no, no. I do look, I do believe it. I don't want to sound dismissive when I say that.
it.
It's that because you're right. I do believe that you have to identify the first and best opportunities to go after.
Mm-hmm.
What I was saying earlier, though, is that it's not that low-hanging fruit is a bad thing, but there is a tendency among salespeople, and let's just say the not good salespeople, that look at an account list and say, well, when are you going to make an introduction for me? I want to get into that account. When can we go get a meeting? Right.
And that is bad partnering 101. So we have a fundamental problem, and I mean, thinking into the future, you think about the new sellers that are coming into the market now. These have been kids that have been through COVID. They're coming into a market where AI is taking off, and AI is writing everything, LinkedIn posts, Facebook posts, everything they do. And we need these sellers to be able to communicate not just with their buyers, but with that partner. I call it your moat around every account, and it's multiple partners. And so this new seller has to be so good at actually the personal relationships. So I think sales leaders and the future, I mean, we're going to have a big problem if companies are not training on how to partner with sales teams. We're already seeing challenges with this old playbook of let's make 100 cold calls. It's burning people out. It's not working. So, and with hyperscalers and ecosystems, it's changing the game. So culturally, yeah, these are the big challenges inside of companies, and it's going to get greater, I think.
I couldn't agree more. And I do think that despite, again, legally obligated to say AI a few times in every conversation we have, despite tools like PartnerTap that helps automate and facilitate this type of sales motion, we can't lose sight of the fact, and I mean this is a fact, that we are always in a relationship business. People want to do business with people. And even when, Channelnomics, we're seeing a shift of sales going into marketplaces and digital sales platforms, but there's still human beings facilitating those
Yes.
conversations in that decision-making process. And you have
Right.
to have the trust of the person on the receiving end of that information to be able to get confidence that they are, or build their confidence to actually do business with you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a marketplace is it's a transaction, but there was a big dance. That marathon was run to get to the point of transaction. And you're as a seller, you're going to go, where do you want to transact? Transact through the marketplace? Great. Want to transact through a reseller? Great. You want to transact direct? Great. Right. So it's, the marathon is being run by salespeople. As much as I hear that, oh, people are just purchasing and buying and transacting on marketplace. Yes, those purchases happen, but people are still orchestrating plays around these companies, right?
All right, so I'm going to get you two questions here because I want people to understand how to work with PartnerTap. I'm a vendor, or I'm a partner or an ISV, and I want to do this type of co-selling. I want to be able to facilitate better go-to-market activities with my partners. What's step one with PartnerTap?
So step one is get approval from security and IT. We always say we need to go through the front door and get the blessing. And our company has done that dance many, many times. But this is, top down. This is a go-to-market motion of co-selling. Data sharing is a component of it. So we get the buy-in, and then it's who are the top partners that you're already going to market with. Data sharing between them, and then we orchestrate sales plays between sellers, connecting sellers around accounts. Now, as long as your company's incentives and culture is aligned, you're going to hit tons of low-hanging fruit. Now, if your incentives aren't aligned to actually compensate sellers for working with partners, if culturally your sales leaders don't look like they might look down on, oh, a partner brought you into this, or oh, you're just using like I'm telling you, we've seen it all. That's the blocker. But if your incentives and culturally your sales leadership is aligned, this is gasoline on a fire.
And that's what makes the relationship between PartnerTap and Channelnomics work so well, because that's the guidance and direction and planning that we help your clients with, and we also use with our clients when we're directing them into PartnerTap, is that you have to have that mutual understanding of what you're trying to achieve, what the process is going to be, and what the outcomes are. And that's where I really want to land on this with you, is because you do have many success stories. Um, but for companies that are not familiar with this, for companies that are haven't experienced this, what does success look like when they work with PartnerTap?
So I would say, running that initial sales play and really learning from that. How did our sales team react? How did the partner sales team react? What do we need to tweak on the next play and run of data? So it's really running the first play and then iterating. And partnerships change too. Players change. So it's constant iteration, but now you actually have the data that can help you make the decisions of where we should go play. It's like playing chess with all the pieces. You can see the pieces on the other side.
I actually think it's more like three-dimensional chess, because there's different layers and different actors that are, and there's constant movement. The market is dynamic, the channel is dynamic, and it's in constant motion. And it's really hard to keep all of that in perspective and have a hand in guiding it. So I like the analogy of playing chess, but I think it's even more complex than that.
I agree with that. It is way more complex.
Yeah. So speaking of complexity, I want to end on this because, when I started Channelnomics 14 years ago, I had no idea that this is where we would be now. And PartnerTap is still a fairly young company, but growing and innovative. And there's a lot of things that are happening around you. Looking forward, where do you see PartnerTap going, and how do you see it evolving with the way that the market's evolving, the way the channel's evolving?
I started this company out of a need and on the sales side, right? And so we've done a lot. We started out with a sales module and then grew into a channel module and orchestration. And so, really the future and where we're focused is, how do we make this frictionless for sellers? How do we serve sellers, partners to go speak with? How do we get those middle of the pack sellers where partnering isn't as intuitive for them? how do we make life easier for them and be anywhere that that seller is at? So that's what we're thinking about in building in the new things that are coming with PartnerTap. We're also doing a lot of co-build with Slack. And from day one, I just always wanted to be where a user was. And I always wanted to help sellers make more money. And sellers are partnering with Channel and the partnerships team. And so how do we make these teams more effective together? People are generating more revenue together. Things are great. When they're not, that's when things are bad. So we want to feed the pipeline. So that's really it's working on that messy middle is where we're focused right now, and
Yeah.
what's coming in the future.
So here at Channelnomics, we tell people frequently, if you want channels to work well, you have two choices. You either remove friction or you add fuel to the engine. And one of the things I like about what you're describing here is PartnerTap is looking to do both.
Exactly. Yes, that will be the success in the
Yeah.
future for sure.
Cassandra, thank you so much for joining us here on the Network Effect. It's been great having you.
Thanks so much, Larry. It's great to be here.
Again, thanks to our guest, Cassandra Gholston, the CEO and co-founder of PartnerTap, for joining us. And PartnerTap's a great company. Please feel free to reach out to them. Look at their website. There's a lot of great information and use cases and success stories there. You can find out more about them. And again, I want to thank all of you for tuning in again to the Network Effect. We do this podcast to help keep everybody informed, as we do with everything else we do at Channelnomics. So please check out our other podcasts, Changing Channels and In the Margins, and all the great information we have for you on channelnomics.com. Until next time, I'm Larry Walsh.